People joke around and say stuff like, oh, my house is haunted, or like, there's a ghost that lives in my closet, but I legitimately think that my Subway store is haunted. There's just too many weird paranormal occurrences that happen like every single day at the store that I've just concluded on my own that ghosts literally live in the back of my Subway. And by the way, in this video, we're making something called fairy bread. It's basically a recipe from Australia and New Zealand that's just bread, butter, and sprinkles. It looks really good and it tastes, well, you'll see my reaction at the end as to how it tastes. But when I first started working at this new Subway, and by the way, it's only this Subway that I think is haunted. I mean, the other one could have been too, but that's another story for another time. Literally from day one working at this Subway, I started to notice some weird things that would happen, usually around nighttime. I think the first occurrence I've ever had of a paranormal activity was one night that I was just chilling at the Subway and it was completely dead, and then all of a sudden, a box of chips fell down from the shelf in the back, and then another one did. Now, this shelf is completely flat too. Like, I don't even know how a box of chips would ever fall down from this place unless somebody pushed it. And I'm not saying that that alone is evidence for a ghost, but you know, it's kind of compelling. And there's always weird noises coming from the back there too. I've never heard like a voice. Oh my god, if I heard like a baby voice coming from the back, we're moving to Mexico. We're literally gonna burn down Subway and just move out of that place, because then it's like really haunted. But I've heard a ton of weird noises from the back, and I thought it was just me until one day I brought it up to one of my coworkers, and she literally said the same exact thing. She said something along the lines of like, oh, Milad, I sense a presence in the Subway. And I'm like, what on earth are you talking about? I was pretty confused when that happened, but you know, she made sense. Every time we go to the back of the store, it's a little colder. And don't even get me started about the basement of the Subway. And you know, if you look at the history of our location, I don't know, it kind of makes sense, right? There's been some strange things happening around that Subway since day one, before it was even a Subway. And I think the scariest thing that's ever happened to me while working was a bunch of knives that dropped onto the floor, literally out of nowhere, out of the bin, and I was like, well, at least it didn't land on me, right? But it literally dropped from like this height where if somebody was standing under it, I don't know, it could have done some serious damage. I'm just thankful that I wasn't standing under it that night. But whether you think it's just coincidence or if it's actually haunted, all I know is that it's still the best Subway to get a Subway sandwich at. And I've heard that if you subscribe to the channel and like this video right now, maybe the ghost won't hurt me. Okay, that might just be a myth, but like 75% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if that button's red, please just click it. And overall, by the way, the fairy bread was not bad. I can see it as a cool Australian treat.